Bangalore is one of the most straightforward legends to play. With a decent sized hitbox and a seemingly simple yet effective kit, she is one of the OG legends of the game that you didn't even need to unlock. That means she is accessible to everyone and many have had years to master her. So why now are Bangalore mains quitting? I personally feel it's because Bangalore is becoming more frustrating to play every patch. It feels like she's the one who got left behind. She was once one of the top 1v1 legends and a great teammate for in-zone games. Though from a lack of buffs, a lack of synergies, and an increasing number of ways her abilities get countered, she has become more of a liability than an asset. I can say this as a Bangalore main with 3,000 plus kills, almost a million plus damage, and over 160 wins at the time of this recording. This is not as much as some of the streamers who play Apex all day, but I think from my stats you can at least tell I have played her for a while. The main issue is Respawn refuses to buff Bangalore, fearing that she will become overpowered, even though in reality, she might be above average at best. The reason I feel like Bangalore needs a buff is that too much of her kit is useless against other legends, detrimental to the team, and sometimes enemy legends benefit from it more than you do. For example, her smoke blinds your teams, the enemies, and Bangalore herself. In many situations, you are better off not using it because it may get your team killed or help the enemies escape. Then, if the enemy team has a Bloodhound, Crypto, Seer, Valkyrie, or even a Fuse after his buff, they can see you and you can't see them. Next is her ultimate, which even after the speed buff is still not very effective to any player paying halfway attention to what they're doing. Rarely will you be in such a hectic gunfight where Bangalore's ult will get multiple kills and shield cracks. Also, against Pathfinders, Octanes, Valkyries, Horizons, and Gibraltars, the ult is basically useless. But if that was not even bad enough, it stuns your team while they're in it. It disorients them so they can't even run. So trying to do a cohesive push and not get the team killed is challenging. Lastly, she has an uncontrollable speed buff that procs when bullets are shot in your vicinity, not directly at you. There have been multiple times where my teammate is being shot at and Bangalore buff procs because I'm near them. The main issue with this is that the buff has a cooldown, so if they push me right after the duration is over, I can no longer outstrafe them to have an advantage in the fight. Bangalore lacks a lot of synergies with other legends, but mainly herself. She blinds herself with her tactical, she can stun and kill herself with her ultimate, and her passive is an uncontrollable speed buff. Bangalore's blindness can be counteracted by a recon legend or a digital threat, but if you have neither one in the game, it's over. I feel like a Bangalore should be able to see in her own smoke by having enemies in a red outline and allies in a green one. And before you say it's overpowered, Caustic can already do this and his gas is actually deadly. Next, she should not be disoriented by her own bombs, and they should do decreased damage to all Bangalores to make things fair. Lastly, I think the passive should have a lower cooldown and have some other things added to it. My thoughts are, while in double time state, in addition to having increased strafe speed, she should also have a faster weapon swapping speed and reloading. Then, to make the buff more consistent, whenever she goes into her own smoke, she should be able to proc double time. In my opinion, this makes perfect sense because she was a professional IMC soldier before the Apex games who mastered all weapons, and she's been in plenty of life or death situations, so she knows when she needs to be fast and when she needs to be, slow. It makes sense. Bangalore also just lacks a fun factor and real team effectiveness. This is because her entire kit feels very reactive instead of proactive. If someone shoots at you, you pop a smoke to reposition somewhere, but if you want to use it yourself for a push, you risk blinding the team and herself. Her ult is only really viable to stop a third party or if you are getting pushed too hard. Other than that, all it does is announce you are coming and ruins an otherwise good third party from the team and you. Then her passive can only be triggered if someone else shoots at you. Contrast all of this with another OG legend, Pathfinder, who I've been maining lately. He is fun to play, has a proactive kit, and is a good team player. Pathfinder completely takes advantage of Apex's movement system and is really fun to zoom around with him. His kit is also proactive, so if you see someone, you can grapple towards them and it won't hinder you. Then his ultimate has team effectiveness because it can safely move your team to high ground, away from fights, and to fights without being too flashy. Also, his recon passive provides the team with valuable knowledge. I feel Respawn should at least consider Bangalore being able to see through her own smoke, and possibly the other buffs as well. For the team effectiveness issue that will require an entire kit rework, this more than likely is not worth doing so I feel like Respawn should just double down on making her one of the top 1v1 legends. Another problem with Bangalore is she has a lack of tournament representation. Respawn usually buffs and nerfs characters based on their win rate, pick rate, and what the ranked meta is. I don't know about you, but when I watch high level ranked games, master and up / tournaments, I rarely see a Bangalore, although when I do, they are usually cracked, meaning they are carrying Bangalore's bad kit with pure skill. The main example of this is Shiv FPS.
Let's go! Let's fucking go, you nuts! My god! Let's go, baby! Let's go, baby! We're the fucking best!
We're the best. We are the best.
My god!
The best.
We're just the best!
You do not get
You
better.
don't get better than this. Nope, you don't. You really don't.
The Bangalore main we all want to be like, but the problem is he makes any character look good because he plays a lot and he's just good at the game. So I feel like all Bangalores at that skill level just push through her glaring problems with their talent, and Respawn has just turned a blind eye to it all this time. Okay, I know this next part may be subjective, but it needs to be said. Respawn continues to do Bangalore dirty with the skins they give her. They are some of the most lackluster skins in the game. Respawn, bro, what is this? Come on, do better, please.
No, 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 no. Look at the top of his head.
Also, she has the most plain looking heirloom out of everyone they have released so far. The only one that might be worse is Gibraltar's, but I honestly think his is better than Bangalore's. And I don't really keep up with Apex's lore, but I hear she gets done dirty in the story too multiple times. Anyway. The more this game goes on, the more I see anti-Bangalore features. The number of recon legends added to the game making her tactical useless, then the mobility legends making her ult useless, to the number of characters who do what Bangalore does but better. Gibraltar has the better and faster, more precise ult. Caustic has the better smoke, which he can see in and is deadly, and Octane has the better speed buff, which is controllable. She is just a jack of all trades, a master at none. I feel like Respawn is just pushing Bangalore further and further out of a meta she already wasn't in, from a lack of buffs and her only reasoning being she has a higher win rate and might be overpowered, to her feeling like an overall burden in most team comps, then her lack of a wow factor just makes her not very enjoyable.